Hey there, stranger. Yeah, I found a little bit of time to try to punch out a real quick tutorial for the funky pattern in the intro video I do. This was just a sketch that an old roommate of mine wrote, really good friend of mine, one of the most just brilliant writers I ever knew, and this was just a really cool thing that I wanted to use. It's part of the bigger thing that starts, etc. like that, but eventually it gets to this bridge part where it's going. Yeah, and it's a really kind of intricate pluck and chuck pattern where there's a couple of layers layered into it when you hear it, and it's part of what makes it sound cool is there's some kind of offsets in the bass, but it's still grounded by the backbeat. It's just the chemistry of that riff is just so cool. So, all right, I'm going to break it down as much as I can, kind of in the short version. So the first thing you want to know is there's 4 chords. There's this B minor 11th 13 thing going on. Just imagine like a regular kind of B minor bar chord, but you're not really barring it. The bar's not down at all, literally. You have pointer finger 2nd fret of the A string, ring finger 4th fret of the D string, and middle finger 3rd fret of the B string. So you have your G string, open G string, and your open E string. Part of what makes it cool. And next you have you leave this ring finger here. The ring finger stays on this F sharp, but then you move the pointer finger over to the 2nd fret of the B string. So it makes kind of a so like an A major 6-7 chord. This is the 6th and then the 7th. The important thing is this F sharp and this G kind of rubbing each other as part of the riff. That little distance there is what makes the riff really kind of special harmonically. So go from this B minor to this A, sort of like an A7, but really it's the 4th fret of the D string and the 2nd fret of the B string, and the rest is open. Then you go to, Then it's kind of like the outline of a G major 7 chord, but really it's you kind of really briefly have your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the B string again, but it's going to come off in a minute. And you still have this ring finger. This ring finger's been planted on the 4th fret of the D string. It's still hanging there. And then you can reach around with your pointer finger. I usually use my thumb to grab the 3rd fret of the thick E string. So you're not really playing the open A string, but you're playing the G and then all these upper strings. They're all kind of game. So you got only two strings are fretted here. And then, this is the really funky part. The ring finger is going to move over now. It's going to move over to the A string. So now it's on the 4th fret of the A string. It's a C sharp here. Thumb's still on this bass note. And then you have the pinky is going to be on the 4th fret of the G string, and then come down to the 2nd fret of the G string. 4th, 2nd on the G string. Pointer finger's got that. So it's sort of like the A7 shape here, except it's now moved over here. On one string this way. And now the G is. So if you watch and you follow that, B minor, A7, G major 7. I'm trying to figure out what. This is kind of like a. This is kind of like a more like a G add 9 with some funky melodic stuff going on. The harmony of these chords is not directly easy to assess because of the way the line's moving, but it's they're fun shapes. That's part of what makes it so great. All right, so. Make sure you got that. Make sure you got the B minor 11-13, the A7 thing, G major 7 thing, and then the G sharp 11 thing. Yeah. Once you got those down, the pattern. All right. The first stroke is. Yeah, and it starts just before the beat. The thumb is pretty much on the beat. Yeah, the thumb is gonna just go 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the thumb is pretty straight. It kind of grounds it. It's pretty straight 8th note pluck and chuck pattern. Where it's going up the string, starting on the A string, up to the D string, da 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 da. So that's kind of the thread, and that just repeats again and again. The other tricky melody is you have to kind of... You have to be able to catch the middle finger and then the ring finger in between, kind of dancing around those thumb strokes. So it's like middle thumb, ring thumb, middle thumb, ring thumb. So just see if you can get middle thumb, ring thumb, middle thumb, ring thumb. Get that little fragment. And then it's going to be, and right after that last thumb stroke, you're going to have to be, it's the thumb and the pointer finger. Whenever the thumb and the pointer fingers happen, it's kind of rubbing those middle strings. Thumb, pointer, add that pointer finger on the middle thumb, ring, thumb, pointer. And then it's going to hit the ring. But when you hit the upper string this time, that's your chuck. Chuck. And then it's going to add a thumb and a pointer at the end. So you got all that. And then the pattern's basically going to start again over the other chords. Except this time over the A chord. See, that chuck was on the thin E string. This one's all going to be, you're kind of walking down from D down to that C sharp there. You're going, you switch the shape, but you go D, C sharp, D, C sharp, and then you chuck on that C sharp again. There we go. Yeah. And then for the next chord, you go D, B, D, open B, D, open B. So rather than going middle ring like you did on the first chord, it's a lot of middle finger. The middle finger's kind of repeating. And it gets tricky on the last chord because everything kind of shifts down a string this way to accommodate the chord change. So here you're using the open E string. Here it's all the B string. But the thumb's also moved down to playing the thick E string and the D string. Now it's on the E string. And as this chord starts, you play the pinky, but it's with the middle finger. And the thumb is going E string, A string. And now the rub is here between the A and the D string. It's that C sharp and that open D. So let me play the whole thing really, really slowly. So yeah, there's the idea. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I got to cover about it. I mean, part of the reason it's so cool is because it's like, you know, it's got some neat, you know, cyclical syncopations in it, and it sounds like there's three voices. It sounds like dun da 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 da, and then it just sounds like these are kind of like these little, kind of rubbing in there, and the bass is just rocking it. So, I mean, one of the hardest things is, like, once you get the fingers coordinated, you got to build a balance for that whole thing. It's like getting used to balancing this sequence so it sounds like it's vocal. It sounds like it sings a little bit. I generally want the top line to come out. That's the big thing. It has that very... Yeah, sometimes Niall would go... Gonna throw that F sharp in there instead. the rest of the piece is a whole nother thing. But that's a start. Let me know how that works for you, and yeah, I hope you have fun learning it. It's a really cool riff. So, yeah, have a good one. Peace.